to the Francis Roe Center for Professional Growth. My name is Diane Smith, and I'm a marketing manager here at Arlington Roe and a facilitator for the Francis Roe Center. We thank you for joining us today, and we are pleased to have Steve Ranahan, a commercial senior broker, with us today who specializes in commercial ag. Today, we'll be talking about the commercial lines ag space here at Arlington Roe, and Steve's here to help us understand the marketplace as he sees it today. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, thanks, Diane. I appreciate the opportunity to present our commercial ag products and our commercial ag appetite at Arlington Roe. We are a wholesale broker, and we concentrate in a lot of different businesses. I specialize in commercial ag, and I want to help you, our agents, write more commercial ag in your community. The type of what we're really looking to do is write package business. Most of the business we write in commercial ag is on admitted paper. We can normally help you with all lines of coverage from property, auto, crime, inland marine, workers' comp, umbrella. We can package it all together, make sure we have the various professional endorsements, misdelivery, misapplication, mixing E&O, the type of professional coverages that are needed depending on what risk we're looking at. The main difference between the commercial ag unit that we have at Arlington Roe and our personal farm department normally centers around if the risk has a dwelling. If the risk has a dwelling and you need dwelling coverage, we normally send that to our personal farm department. If it's a separate corporation and we're concentrating on the income producing operation, that normally will be what we consider a commercial ag risk. So think of things like anything that supplies a grocery store or the actual farm. Those type of businesses are the type of businesses that we write in commercial ag. And again, we're looking to write package business when at all possible, but we can split apart things depending on loss issues. We can definitely write monoline liability and monoline property and umbrella, etc. But normally, the way to compete on this business is to write package business. The type of risk that we are looking for normally can be categorized in 4 different categories: farm supply, ag contractors, ag trucking, and food products. Okay. Under farm supply, we're looking at things like grain elevators, feed mills and feed dealers, fertilizer and chemical dealers, seed dealers, agricultural cooperatives, bulk retail petroleum distributors, fertilizer application, and farm retail stores. So basically feed, seed, and fertilizer. If you have those type of risks at your office and you need help with those, please give me a call or our ag team a call at Arlington Roe, and most likely we'll be able to help you with those risks.
So, Steve, there are a lot of classes of business here illustrated. Can you give us an idea of one of the risks that you've written recently?
Yeah, I just recently wrote a large feed mill in Iowa. That was a nice risk. We did a package policy, including their trucking fleet. The account premium was a little over $225,000. It was a key account for the agency, and it was coming from a company that was getting out of the ag business. The agent didn't have any other markets for this risk, especially on a package basis. He called me at Arlington Roe, and we were able to get the business placed for him, and they were able to save the account for the agency. And another account very similar was a chemical dealer account that we just wrote. Similar situation where the agent was going to lose the account due to a company getting out of the marketplace. We were able to write a package business on that chemical dealer. It was about $125,000 account, and we were able to get the professional coverages that were needed. Misdelivery, misapplication, and mixing E&O were important to the owners of the risk, and we're able to make sure we got those coverage endorsements on the policy, along with ag risk consultants or agronomy E&O. So those are just some examples of accounts that we've been able to write with, recently on our package programs. Another recent success was a seed dealing account where it was a new business for the agent, and we're able to get the seed merchant CNO coverage and all the stock coverage, all the property coverage, basically. Again, a package policy, and on admitted paper, agent was happy and the risk was happy that we're able to get all the coverages, including workers' comp, on that particular account.
So, Steve, along with all of these classes of business, can you tell us a little bit about agricultural cooperatives?
Sure. Yes. Ag co-ops are something that we definitely look at and we write. There's not as many agricultural co-ops as there used to be. There, years ago, there was basically for example, in the state of Indiana, there was a co-op for almost every county. Now there's probably roughly maybe 17 co-ops still left in the state of Indiana, but because of all the mergers and acquisitions, the co-ops just keep getting bigger and bigger, but we can handle those larger accounts. So, but co-ops are normally owned by, a variety of farmers or owners, but they're basically operations that are supplying local farmers. So think of like a Walmart for farmers. The farmers come into the co-op and they buy their seed, feed, fertilizer, diesel products, etc., things that they need to operate their farm, or things they need for their operations they normally buy from the local co-op. If there's not a co-op in the area, or there might be a competing private farm supply, basically a farm supply operation normally is an operation that's owned by maybe one owner, a local owner, and they actually supply feed, seed, fertilizer to etc. to local farmers, and the farmers buy from the local farm supply. So depending on what it is, if it's a local farm supply or agricultural co-op, very similar exposures. We're dealing with a lot of property value. We want to make sure that we have the values correct on co-ops. We want to make sure we have the proper coverages on each of the co-ops and the farm supply stores, because we need to make sure we value things correctly when we're dealing with agricultural property. As agricultural property, we're dealing a lot with commodities, and commodity prices change. So normally we're dealing on the property side with a monthly reporting form. We want to use the monthly reporting form. It's to the advantage of the client to make sure we're getting the exposures correctly on the property side. And we're going to usually use some sort of volume basis to rate the general liability section, such as, bushels versus sales, because we want to make sure we're accurately rating the risk for the exposure, as the price fluctuates greatly when it comes to commodities. So seed price, feed price, fertilizer price, grain prices, they change on a daily basis. And we want to make sure that we're rating the liability correctly based on volume versus sales.
So, Steve, we know that agricultural trucking right now is also a big line of business that you see, and we write many policies in. Can you discuss these risks for our agents, please?
Yeah, ag trucking is a really very similar to any other type of transportation trucking risk. However, we have a special program with an admitted carrier that likes the package ag trucking accounts as long as they're grain, milk, manure, or livestock hauling. They have a very nice program. They're looking for risks that travel 300 miles in radius or less. They're looking for, standard, preferred risks. They're not looking for risk with a lot of losses. But if you have a good, solid ag trucking risk, please give us a call, and I can look at those with our ag trucking markets. If for some reason it doesn't fit into our ag trucking markets, we can always have our transportation department look at it. In many cases, That's what will happen when one of these accounts come into Arlington Row, either through the transportation department or through the commercial ag department. We will basically team up and see if we do have an admitted commercial ag market for the trucking risk, that's going to be the most competitive. If for some reason our market will not write it in commercial ag, then our transportation team will take over with the trucking markets that we have in our trucking department.
And that is one thing here at Arlington Row that we do well. We work together as a team very well. We review the risk. And again, if it doesn't fit in one area, Steve's going to find the expertise and the knowledge in another area. So Steve, let's move ahead into agricultural contractors. And here are some classes of business that we regularly see. Do you want to expound upon those, please?
Yes, we see a lot of ag contractors, and when these come into Arlington Row, if they happen to be ag related, they try to get them over to the brokerage division so we can look at those with our commercial ag markets, because our commercial ag markets are in our brokerage division. And the type of ag contractors that we look at the most are anything related to manure spreaders, manure pumping, custom harvesting accounts. So both from a standpoint of custom planting or custom harvesting, or risks that do both. Irrigation equipment service and repair contractors or dealers. If they're dealing in irrigation equipment and they're also servicing and repair, we can look at it from a dealer perspective, or also from a contracting perspective. So if they're just out repairing or installing irrigation equipment, we can do a contractor's policy for those type of operations. Precision planting equipment, and also agricultural equipment installation in barn, grain bin installation and repair, barn construction, those type of things. Basically contractors that concentrate in any type of ag contracting. Another one that comes to mind is a field tile contractor. I just wrote a field tile contractor not too long ago. Nice account. The grain bin installation and repair contractors. There's a lot of grain bin dryer, specialized dairy equipment contractors that repair and install dairy equipment. There's a lot of different types of equipment on the farm. If there's a particular contractor that is working on that on a regular basis, and that's their business, please give me a call, because there's a good chance we'll have an admitted market that can write that contractor for you.
So Steve, if it's something that our agents are not familiar with, you're obviously the expert in this area. Before they go too far down the road, your suggestion is to give you a call, drop you maybe an email to discuss the risk, correct?
Absolutely. Always give me a call or drop me an email. A lot of times we want to actually talk about these accounts, because these guys, these type of risks can get into a lot of different things. We want to make sure we're getting the right coverage. I mean, that's the most important thing that we're looking at. I might ask several questions because I want to make sure we get it into the right program and we have the right forms on the policy to make sure we're, covering what we need to cover from an equipment standpoint, from a property standpoint, and from a liability standpoint. So I want to talk to you. Please call us. Please send us an email. Please contact us so we can talk about your risk and make sure we try to put together the correct program for the client.
Steve, I see in this slide irrigation equipment service and repair. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yes, I mean, in that space, and we can do package policies for irrigation equipment dealers and also installation and repair contractors. The other thing we can do when it comes to irrigation equipment is we do a lot of standalone irrigation equipment schedules. So if for whatever reason the agent needs to take the pivot irrigation equipment off their farm owner's policy or off their commercial ag policy and do a separate inland marine policy just to cover the pivot irrigation equipment, we can do that. We have a specialty program that writes a lot of monoline pivot irrigation equipment. And if it's majority pivot irrigation equipment on that list, we can also add some other equipment to that. So they have another piece of equipment or two they need to add to their pivot irrigation schedule. We can do that on a separate inland marine policy.
So, Steve, let's talk about food products. Again, here's a topic with just vast classes of business that you see in the commercial ag space. Do you want to fill us in a little bit more on food products, please?
Sure. Food products is one of those ones that a lot of the larger national carriers may write a food distribution account or a food manufacturing account. And a lot of times agents don't really think about the commercial ag markets for this class of business. But the commercial ag markets are very prevalent in these classes of business, in food products, food distribution, any type of product that you find in a grocery store really are good examples of food product accounts. So it could be anything from ice cream manufacturer, pickled product manufacturer, things like jelly, peanut butter, those type of things, fresh fruit processing, spice and extract manufacturing, dairy and creamery plants, nut and peanut processing, popcorn manufacturers. I have several popcorn manufacturers on the books. They produce popcorn. You go down the aisle and you see X brand of popcorn. A lot of times there's a regional carrier or a regional popcorn maker in an area. Those type of risks we can write in the commercial ag department, and we can write, again, a package policy, including workers' comp, on those risks. So, and we can provide the product recall coverage as well. So that's important to note, that we do have the ability to get product recall coverage. So I wanted to mention food products just because sometimes our agents don't necessarily think about Arlington Roe and our commercial ag markets for package policies when it comes to these type of exposures. And another exposure on the food product, I do want to point out, we can handle the auto piece on a food product. A lot of times these risks might have 10, 15, 20, 25 trucks. We can handle the auto as well on our program. So I just want to make sure I point that out, because again, I believe some of our agents they don't necessarily always think about us for a full package on these type of accounts. And really for us to be competitive with some of the national carriers on this, or some of the other carriers or our competition, only way we will write them is to write the full package.
So, Steve, along with food products, we talked about agents picking up the phone and calling you to discuss a risk. Can you talk about lead time that's needed, as well as your expertise in helping an agent, maybe client facing?
Sure. On different types of risks, I mean, I travel quite a bit for Arlington Roe, and I certainly don't mind going out with an agent and presenting the risk or looking at a risk with an agent. On the right account, I'll certainly do that. As far as different types of things we can do when we're talking about these is try to come up with different ways to maybe helping the client. One of the ways we do it is we could do stock throughput policies, which is a different type of policy to help cover the property, but also, really handle the distribution of the product, the cargo of the product. So they're shipping they're usually shipping these things via train, ship, truck, or plane. And we want to make sure that, we have specialized policies that we can actually write all the cargo regardless of how it's being shipped. And this can actually help the insured save money on their shipping insurance, depending on how they have things set up currently. So if you have questions about shipping insurance or how it works or how a stock throughput policy works, please give me a call, because I end up dealing in that space quite often and with all the various agricultural risks that we look at on a day-to-day basis. Another area that comes up on these type of accounts is railroad. A lot of these, distributors or ag, farm supply, grain feed, fertilizer, seed, those type of accounts. Oftentimes they'll have a railroad spur on their property, or they'll have a need for some sort of rail coverage. They might actually own rolling stock. They're going to ask questions about cargo. And again, that comes back to stock throughput policy or certain endorsements that we can add to the current commercial package policy in order to make sure we have the rail exposure covered correctly. So that's important. So if a risk has a contract of any kind that they have in place with the local, with the railroad, and they ask you to review it, please send that to me so I can look at it and we can review it together to make sure we have the coverages needed in, in the program that we design and help build for the client. But we can, we'll look at the rail GL, we can look at railroad protective, we can look at the rolling stock, we can do rail operations, we can do rail car lessors and lessees, short line railroads. We do a lot of rail physical damage coverage. There's just really a wide variety of things that we do. Now, with railroad, there's, the markets are limited. There's only so many markets available for railroad. Fortunately, at Arlington Roe, we have most of the markets covered for railroad. So if you have any type of railroad questions or need railroad coverage, please give me a call, including, rail contractors that are actually doing work on the rail, replacing rail ties, those type of things. Those are specialty contractors that work on the rail. Normally those type of contractors are better off on a rail GL form, and we have rail markets that can do that. The same thing for rail product manufacturing. So if they're doing any type of product for rail cars, think of, types of things on the inside of a rail car or outside of a rail car, rail car stenciling, the people that actually paint and stencil on the rail car. Those are specialty contractors or specialty product manufacturers. And normally, the most competitive way to write those is with a rail company. So we want to make sure we go to a market that specializes in rail GL, to make sure we have the right coverages, because the contracts these contractors sign into, they're important. And we need to make sure we address those contracts. And if you dealt very much with the railroad, those contracts are very favorable to the railroad. We want to make sure we abide by those contracts and we get the coverage that the contractor needs. So when you're thinking of a contractor that does a lot of work for railroads, please give me a call at Arlington Roe. If it comes to commercial ag and your contract with Arlington Roe, if you have any type of question or just want to talk about an account when it comes to a commercial ag or a railroad account, you just have any type of questions, please give me a call, because sometimes you just, it's just important to kind of talk through the exposures, make sure we're addressing those exposures with the right coverage. And I want to encourage any of our agents to always pick up the phone and call us or send us an email. I will call you back, and we can just talk about an account. Especially a lot of these accounts are key accounts for our agents. I know a lot of our agents, when they write these accounts, they get, they're key accounts. When I say key account, 80% of most agencies' revenue comes from 20% of their accounts. And normally these type of accounts are key accounts. They generate a lot of revenue for the agency. If you want to talk about an account, you need help placing an account, a market's getting off the exposure for whatever reason, give us a call. So I guess that's where I want to make sure I leave this presentation is just, pick up the phone, call, let's talk about the account, and let's try to, place the account. We'll work hard to place the account for you.
So Steve, can you discuss some specific trends that you're seeing in the marketplace right now?
Yes, I think the biggest trend I'm seeing with the commercial ag companies are just the need, for excess policies over, different, any of the types of risks that we talked about today. A lot of the ag markets and insurance companies in general are lowering their capacity. So in the past, on like a seed dealer or seed manufacturer or feed or fertilizer, you used to be able to get 5 million or 10 million capacity from the primary carrier, fairly readily and easily. Well, those days are over. for the most part, 5 million is about the maximum amount on excess that you're going to be able to get. So depending on the contracts that these risks enter into, a lot of times they need more than 5 million. So we've been seeing a lot of excess opportunity, especially at that 5x of 5, 10x of 5 level. I'm working on one right now where I believe we'll be getting the buying order any day now for a 20x of 30 on a product manufacturing account in the ag space. So we see a wide variety of excess opportunities. So if we can't write the actual package policy, we can definitely help you with those type of placements on the excess. Another spot that we're seeing some action is just property in general. Again, these companies are lowering their capacity on property, and sometimes we have to split property out. That's where the stock throughput policy comes into place, because we can take some of that property off of the package, lower the property that's being insured on the package policy, and move it to a stock throughput policy. So that's another possibility and use for the stock throughput policy, is if the risk is having capacity issues, we can move some of the property over to a separate policy.
So Steve, what about protection class? The mills and the grain elevators, they're out there in those PC 9s and 10s. Can you address that for us?
Basically in commercial ag, obviously a lot of the property that we deal with is in protection class, 8, 9, and 10. A lot of companies aren't used to that, but the ag companies, for the most part, are used to that. So we can deal with those protection class issues on property in the ag space. One of the trends I'm seeing though is a lot of the companies are wanting newer property. They're starting to, definitely put actual cash value endorsements on property versus replacement costs. We need to, watch that. But as far as protection class in the ag space, it's really not a terrible issue just because our ag markets are used to that. Now, if we cannot use an ag package market for the property, then it becomes much more difficult, because the property companies are always a little leery of protection class 9 and 10. But if we're using our ag markets, the protection class 9 and 10 is not as much of an issue. And we another type of risk that we do, I've been seeing more and more of, is builder's risk coverage. So if you need help with builder's risk, especially commercial ag builder's risk for any type of ag building, whatnot, please give us a call, because we do have builder's risk markets available.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing with us today the commercial ag space. It is a broad spectrum of classes of business that you're able to entertain here at Arlington Roe, and we appreciate your expertise. You want to talk about your team a little bit?
As stated earlier, we do have an ag team at Arlington Roe that concentrates on these risks, including our railroad risks. So it's just not me that works on these accounts. Mary Earl and Kelly Canistra work on our renewals and new business. Mary will work with me the most on railroad accounts, and Kelly works with me a lot on the ag accounts, but so does Mary as well. So we do have a team to look at these accounts, review these accounts, and hopefully write these accounts for you, our agent.
So, Steve, thank you again for joining us today at the Francis Roe Center. I would like to end with your expertise here and sharing what the future forecast is in your eyes for the commercial ag space.
Well, I think the commercial ag space is very robust. There's a lot of opportunity out there for commercial ag. Our commercial ag accounts out there are seeking advisors. They want independent agents to come out and talk to them. So I encourage our agents to go out and talk to the local risks. A lot of folks have been retiring in this space. So it's a great opportunity for the younger agents to get out and talk to commercial agricultural risks in their area. Please know that we're available to help you with that. give us a call, talk to us, because we're at the ready to help our agents write commercial ag business. I believe it's a great space. We're definitely growing. We're growing. We've grown every year that I've been here with Arlington Rowe when it comes to commercial ag. It's just been a wonderful. It's a wonderful business. It's a wonderful place for agents to concentrate on, and we're really looking forward to all the opportunities that are coming our way. There's a couple regional carriers that have had significant books of business, or that have significant books of business, and they're actually getting out of the commercial ag space. So there's going to be more and more opportunities coming onto the marketplace. So I hope our agents are just keeping an eye out for those. And if somebody calls you about a feed, a seed, a grain, a fertilizer or ag chemical account, and maybe you haven't really dealt with those very often, please take the call and give us a call. We can help you put together a nice program and hopefully help you win that account for your agency.
Thank you again, Steve. Great job today. And thanks to all of you for joining us. This concludes our session of the Francis Roe Center for Professional Growth. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.